Hello everybody. This is upside down. Hello everybody. Today we're going to tear apart an RX 580. So if you've got an RX 580, one of these little guys with a single fan, and you're looking to see what the pad thicknesses are, where the pads go, what it looks like to take it apart, this is a good video for you because we're going over all that stuff here. I've got my calipers there, my tools here, got my little ankle bracelet on attached to something metal, and we're going to get started. But before we get started, this just came in the mail like a few hours ago. I'm excited about it. It's nothing serious, but I'm still excited about it because it's mining parts. We got these risers here. My last set of risers are doing great. Okay, so here's the RX 580 8GB. If your card looks like this, it's a good video for you. Everything on it works great, except for I think it needs new pads and paste. First thing we're going to do is take off all the backing screws. And I'm not going to be able to do that while holding the phone. I don't have a tripod. I should get a guy to hang out with me and hold the camera while we do this, but I don't have that now. So you'll see this step by step and I'll explain it. And you will get all the information that you need if you're comfortable opening up a card. You'll get the thicknesses I'm going to be using, which I believe are the factory thicknesses of pads, and where the pads go. And when it comes to paste is easy enough. You just stick a little dab on the same spot every time for every card, and it works great. I'll have links in the description for all the tools I'm using. Calipers are helpful if you're measuring the pads yourself. You measure the pads, and then you replace the pads with that same thickness of pad. You'll need scissors to cut the pads, and this here is like a little bag of tools, all kinds of useful things. Stuff that can get into tight spaces mostly is what it is. Little tweezers and things like that. That doesn't belong in there. That's a cell phone thing, but that's where I keep it. Basically all different types of stuff getting into tight spaces, and then tweezers. So there's that. Most guys will send you to the more expensive one of these, which is like a little bag that's kind of like a scroll that rolls out, and instead of it being Hebrew words of life, it is metal tools, which will help you get into tight spaces more or less. This is the exact same, more or less, set of tools, but it comes in this little case, and it has this nifty little button in it, where when you press it, all these guys pop up like that. It's like straight out of Space Cadets or something. And if you use this, you want to be careful not to get any screws caught in this guy here, because this guy here, if you get a screw caught in upside down there, as in the head is closest to this spot here, it's really tough to get it out. I don't know if it's like that on the other tool or not, but these are all magnetic, so if a screw goes in there, it's tough to get it out. Luckily, I've got a neighbor. Hopefully you've got neighbors too. And my neighbor was able to get that screw out of there for me. So, thank God for Gary, because you could still use it with the screw in there. It just is a little bit annoying, but nonetheless, thank God for Gary. Okay, next we're going to take off the back plate here, and we'll show you that. I apologize if the video quality of this isn't really good. I don't have a bunch of expensive video quality equipment, but the information in here is quality. You can be rest assured of that. If you can hear the background noise, there's some praise and worship music playing, but there's also a loud blower going. That's my humidifier. If you don't have a humidifier, get one. Humidifiers are great. They keep you healthy. They keep your plants healthy. If you're in a very northern climate where the humidity goes really low during the winter, it does all those things. If you're in the south, it doesn't really matter too much because you already got humidity. It also makes your heater work less because the humidity holds, the moisture holds heat better than dry air does. And lastly, there's less static. Okay, so this be the front plate. We've taken this off here, and the hardest part about taking these things apart generally is they come apart in layers, and sometimes it's difficult to figure out where the heck all the screws go, right? So one way that I can help you have a really great day is to let you know that this thing right here, it's not the bag thing, but you see how it's got these different layers here? They're not necessarily compartments, but they're just enough to be able to help you separate the screws that come out. Like, that's the very first set of screws. Here's the next set of screws. The next set of screws that I get taken out, I'm going to put here and then here and here. That way I don't forget where all these darn screws go. This one here doesn't have that many screws, but if you're taking apart something like a Founders Edition card, say like a 1070 blower card, shoot, darn it, man, there's dozens of screws in those, and they're very complicated to take apart and put back together. The next hardest thing is the fan. It's kind of tough, it's kind of fiddly, but you figure out, I think this one is squeezy squeeze on both sides, and it pulls right out. Be gentle about it, take your time, be patient, don't be in a rush, and you'll do fine. But sometimes there's multiple fans. This one only has the one. So we're going to unplug this fan and then get on with it. I hate being wrong, but I was wrong twice here. So first thing I'm wrong about is that was not squeezy squeeze on both sides. It looked like it might have been squeezy squeeze from these sides, but either way, the squeezy squeeze didn't work. I just kind of rocked it back and forth, and back and forth real gently until it came out. And here's the two halves. Now, if you're just repasting, this is all you need. You scrape that paste off, you put new paste on, and then you carefully put it back together, making sure that they line up properly. The second thing that I'm wrong about is I'm not seeing any pads here, and if I'm not mistaken, there's definitely supposed to be pads between the cooling fins and things like, I don't think these are MOSFETs. Are there any MOSFETs on this? Maybe these are MOSFETs. Chips? I think these are chips. Whatever they are, they get hot, I assume, and they probably need pads, and I don't know the thickness of those, so I'm going to have to look up online and figure out what this RX 580 is supposed to have in terms of pads. That would explain why it wasn't handling the dual mining very well. The next layer is to take off these screws here. Take that screw off like that, and then that'll give us access to the fan also. We can pull the whole thing apart and clean all the dust off. Okay, let's see if I can do this with one hand. Recording with one hand and doing this with the other hand. So I've taken off these 4 screws here, which are in that compartment there, yeah, okay, so we're chugging right along layer by layer. And this is all the cooling equipment, most of the cooling equipment. That should just come right out. Yep. Okay, so there we go. So we've got the cooling pipes and the cooling fins. Oh my goodness. This thing. You'd think that I'd be mining carrots because of all the bunnies. Now we've got this other layer here, and as you can see there's more screws involved. Maybe just one. But I think that screw acts, see how big its head is? That screw acts as a thingamabob to keep the wire from coming out of there. So you take that out, and you can pull this wire up and out of here, and once you have that wire dislodged, then you can pull the whole fan out, which I'm sure there's other screws there to get that fan out of there. If I had to guess, I'd say that is the back side of a screw, so we have to get to those screws from the front side. But we'll do that here soon. And for anyone who's made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I know currently, and probably for a good long time, if not forever, my videos aren't getting that many views, and I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to make any money here. I'm just providing a service, basically the same service that other miners provide. The only difference is that I don't hear any of them saying anything honoring God, and I live my life, please don't judge me, serving God. Most people who do judge those who serve God have no problem with people who serve Buddha or Allah or any of the other gods. They just have judgments against the people who worship the Christian God, which I think speaks to his sovereignty and majesty that sets him apart in a way. But either way, enough with that. The point is that I approach everything that I do from a purpose, with the purpose of serving God, regardless of a lot of the misunderstandings about what serving God is all about. And and like, for example, one of the things is I believe that we should approach mining responsibly. What do I mean by that? We shouldn't be driven by greed, and there's plenty of miners out there who aren't driven by greed, and I'm here to encourage them. One of the things that I can say is approaching this with responsibility would be something like refusing to purchase LHR mining cards. Who cares where NVIDIA stands morally, but they, like any business, serve their clients, and their clients are gamers. That's what their original clients were, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of the people who work at NVIDIA and AMD are gamers. The point that I'm making is that the first time that we had an LHR card come out about a year ago, it was basically a request for us miners to honor that some cards, some of them, should belong to gamers. So they made it difficult to mine on, and of course there was a workaround, and of course it caused press and all that stuff. It's a company and its job is to make money. If it's not making money, it can't serve its clients. So very smart people come up with plans to do both. And since then, we've had more and more LHR cards coming out, and there's very few miners who have honored the idea of allowing gamers to have their cards to keep them at a decent price. Yet NVIDIA has still honored the idea of letting there be cards specifically for miners. The 3090, for example, it's a non-LHR card. It's very expensive. Most gamers don't need that kind of power, and if they do, they could just buy two 3060 Ti's or a couple of 3080s, and they'll be fine with that, especially if they're going at MSRP. Us miners, we need more power. They made one with more power and didn't put any LHR on it. That's what I mean, that probably feels like sandpaper, if not broken glass and razor blades on your ears if you're a miner, and because it flies in the face of where the mining community stands as a whole now, and we're less than 10 years old. We have a lot of maturing to do if we're going to handle our responsibilities well, and if we do start handling our responsibilities with honor, dignity, and something that's going to bring about authority within the mining community, it's going to be approaching mining from a responsible perspective. So I'm going to continue to stand on this soapbox, and next thing we're going to do is, and if you try to hit me, I do have defenses, so just, try not to hit me. I'm not hitting you. I'm just putting my ideas out there. Don't judge me based on my ideas, unless you can be nice about it. I respect you for your ideas too. I know everybody's out there, and things are really tough right now, and we all have families to feed. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to take this fan out, and we will move forward. Are you still with me? Are we still friends, even if we disagree? I hope so. If not, maybe it's like we're in a Marvel comic, where there's people who disagree with each other, and instead of getting along with each other, they try to destroy one another. Is your brain washed by movies? The movies of the past 5 years? I hope not. Okay, so the fan came off just like I thought. That was the back side, so you flip the thing over, and you can get to it through the fins. Now that I've got this out, and we've got each of our different layers here, and all of our screws all layered up there, what we're going to do is, I've got some duster, but I'm not going to use duster, because, look at that, do I want all that in my hair? Nope, I sure don't. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get a toothbrush, and I'm going to take it all out with a toothbrush. And then once all of the dust is out with a toothbrush, then I'm going to take duster and just give it a good once over. And then before we put all this back together, I'm going to, what am I going to do? I just lost my train of thought. No, I didn't. I'm going to look up what kind of pads belong on this thing. And shoot darn it, if that's not going to improve the life of this thing, I don't know what will. Okay, quickly here, got the paste off of the heatsink. and off of the chip. You can even see a reflection in the chip. It's nice and clean. I used this tool here, and this tool I think is the actual proper tool to use for that. And I used this washcloth in my fingernail to get around that chip there, all up in the corners and edges and stuff. It's probably not the right one, but it's probably not the right tool, but it's the tool that I use and have been using. I'm sure if I was cleaning 1,000 GPUs a year, I might possibly get some lint or something in there and it would hurt it. I don't know that we need to be using lint-free cloths, or might possibly cause some static or something. That's what the static bracelets are for. I've never actually heard of anybody destroying a card with static, just so long as they're being somewhat careful. But anyway, got that paste off of there. Most of the, if you can, I don't know if you can see it, but there's some critters still in there. When I say critters, I mean like dead skin and other detritus. Between those, I'll have to get duster in there. A little bit, come on now, a little bit in there still, a little bit of dust in here. There we go. And for the most part, got all this, the big stuff cleaned out. You remember seeing this. That's pretty much clean now. All that's just done with a toothbrush. Now I'm going to get some duster on this. I'll get some duster on this, look up the pads, and then we'll get those pads and paste put on, and we'll start getting the card put back together. And real quickly before we finish up, a conclusion to that rant, I don't think that the protocols and thought processes that I've presented would make us as a community weaker. I think they'd make us stronger. I don't know if you watch a lot of YouTube, but there's this commercial with Matt Damon walking around in, like, I don't know, an airline facility or a rocket facility or something, and he says that fortune favors the bold. That's completely and totally false. How many times when you were a teenager were you running around being bold and fortune did not favor you? Fortune favors the wise. Fortune favors the wise, and wisdom is, the universe presents wisdom to people who behave responsibly towards their fellow man. And part of wisdom is knowing when to be bold. Teenagers are plenty bold, but they just don't know when to stop. Okay, I'm not a teenager and I'm stopping. Okay, so this is what I found out. Either YouTube is hiding something from me, or this is about to be the only video on YouTube that features an RX 580 8GB V1. The one that looks like this. The one that has one fan but isn't mini. And I'm starting to think this particular model doesn't have any pads. It might have pads across this thing. The reason that I think that is once this card is all put together, all the chips, if those definitely aren't MOSFETs, all those chips that are around there, they have like 15 millimeters of space between this and that. There's direct contact, obviously, between this and this. And then these guys here, whatever these guys are, next to these capacitors, these guys have probably 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters of space between this and between them and these fins here. That's the only spot that I can see where a pad would go. And like I said, I'm beginning to think there are no pads. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 1.5, maybe a 2 millimeter pad here. When you order pads, try to make sure that you order pads, if you're in a circumstance like this, that are kind of squishy. Because if it's a hard pad, you have no room for error. Whereas if it's a squishy pad, you can put in a slightly thicker pad than is necessary and it'll squish down to the appropriate thickness. I can't tell you which ones are right and which ones are wrong because I haven't ordered a bunch of different pads. All I know is the pads that I've ordered, which I believe are called Diuni, They were the cheapest pads that I could find, and they work freaking great. And they're also pretty squishy. They're not super hard. So thanks to Amazon for that. And yeah, so I'm gonna get these pads on here. I'm gonna get that there, the paste on the chip. And the biggest thing about when you put the paste on the chip is you just want to put like a little pea size right in the middle. I'll show you here in a second. I won't show you the connection, but when you go to connect it, you want to put that directly on that. And with cards like this, the good thing about that is you can see these standoffs right here. They go into those 4 little holes, so it's impossible not to line it up properly. You just want to make sure that you don't have these two touching until it's lined up, and then you press them together. And that's pretty much that. So for your reference, focus, 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 there we go. That's the amount of thermal paste I'm using. About the size of a pea. I think it's too much, just a little bit too much, but it's not going to hurt anything if it spills over. Okay, so that's that, minus 2 screws. I'm about to put those 2 screws in there here in a second, but minus those 2 screws, this card is all put together. And for honesty's sake, I'm telling you that I did not put those pads on those little guys there next to the fins. I don't know if you can see that, barely, but see how much space there is there? It's got to be at least 2 millimeters. There's plenty of space there for this card to breathe. I think it just needed new thermal paste. If I put it in there and it's running hot still, I'm going to take it back apart and stick the thermal pads on those spots there, see if that changes anything. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been informative. Go forth. Do good work. Try not to be too selfish today. It's a few days later, y'all. Were you too selfish that day? That day. This is not a different day for you. This is the same day, like 1 second later. Okay, so the card's right here. Right in there's. Hashing at 30. 56. Nope. Yep, that is the right one. 56 degrees at 44% fan speed. Running at 90 watts. There are some settings for you if you're having trouble with the settings. You don't have to spend a bunch of hours trying to figure them out. There they are. 2190 is a little high. I can actually get this card all the way up to like almost, well, maybe not. I think it's actually 2200, which is high. These cards like to sit at about 2000. This one likes to sit, had it at 2200 for a while. It'd crash the rig every 4 hours or so. I pulled, thanks to Son of a Tech, had the idea of if you got a card that's crashing the rig, just pull 10 off of the mem, and it works. 2190, 1110, it works great. So the idea here is that the fix worked. We're at less than 50% fan speed and 57 degrees now, but it generally will sit at about 55 degrees. At about 44%. It's running just a little hot now that I turned on the camera. And here it is in the rig. And it's not sitting all by itself. I know the lighting's bad here, but I mean, we got a blower card here, another blower card here, and the RX 580 right here in the middle. The 2 blower cards that are running at about 57 degrees. And yeah, they're not cold, that's for sure.